Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to explain about the news of the Alec Baldwin trial, the Rust trial, and the shocking ending of it. So here we go. A botched prosecution, Alec Baldwin's trial gets shock ending, fit for Hollywood. When Alec Baldwin set out to make the Western Rust in 2021, it was a passion project for the veteran actor. He co-created the story, served as a producer, and starred as the film's lead, Halyna Rust, an outlaw with a bounty on his head. Nearly 3 years on, the 66-year-old had assumed the role of a criminal defendant standing trial in New Mexico for involuntary manslaughter in the death of cinematographer Halyna Hutchins during a rehearsal on the film set. As Baldwin entered a Santa Fe courtroom on Wednesday, the day the trial began, he was staring down the prospect of 18 months in prison. By the week's end, in a dramatic twist fit for a Hollywood drama, he was walking out a free man after a judge found the prosecution and law enforcement had intentionally withheld evidence in the case that could have been favorable to the actor. The prosecution's case fell apart in a matter of hours on Friday. A witness testified that Carrie Morrissey, a special prosecutor leading the state's case against Alec Baldwin, was directly involved in a decision to keep potential crucial evidence separate from the Rust case. Another special prosecutor suddenly resigned in the middle of the day, and Morrissey called herself to the stand as a witness. And others were talking about, and also I concur, that this wasn't the best move on her part. She should have an attorney represent her, because even Steele had an attorney represent him during his time when he was being held in contempt by Judge Ganville back at that trial. Now I'm going to continue reading. By the day's end, Judge Marlo Sommer had found the state withheld information in a manner that was intentional and deliberate. Baldwin wept. Hilaria Baldwin, his wife, covered her face and then hugged his attorneys. It was a shocking end to a high-stakes case that has been closely watched by the film industry and documented by dozens of journalists from outlets around the world. And I was seeing this live, and it was just unbelievable to watch. And he got very emotional, and it really was a sight to see. It really was. The swift unraveling surprise even seasoned legal observers. It was stunning to see prosecution fall apart so quickly. One of the special prosecutors bolted before the judge even could make her decision, said Nima, a former federal prosecutor and president of Los Angeles-based West Coast trial lawyers. It's one of the most botched prosecutions in American history. It should be taught in schools as an example of how not to bring a case. And that would have to be right next to the YSL trial, because that one was supposed to be the number one botched case, so we have two this year. Friday's remarkable turn of events capped a trial that had all the makings of a film script. A star accused of acting recklessly with a firearm on set and causing the death of a crew member, a famous audience in the form of Baldwin's actor brother, influencer wife, near constant battles between the prosecution and the defense, and grueling cross-examinations. Over the last week, a bespectacled and stooped Baldwin shuffled into a Santa Fe courthouse each day with his wife and sat alongside his high-profile legal team for proceedings that were live streamed and viewed across the world. And I saw that. The potential repercussions for Baldwin had been very real, being found criminally liable for causing the death of 42-year-old Hutchins and up to 18 months in prison, and a guilty verdict would have had lasting effects in the film industry. A jury was seated on Tuesday, and proceedings kicked off on Wednesday. As things got underway inside the courtroom, the prosecution and defense offered very different versions of the events that unfolded on October 21, 2021. The Rust crew was rehearsing the Bonanza Creek Ranch, a popular movie set about 30 minutes from Santa Fe, when a gun Baldwin was holding fired a single round of live ammunition, striking Hutchins and the director, Joel Souza. The bullet entered underneath Hutchins' right underarm and perforated her right lung before traveling through the spine and lacerating her spinal cord. The prosecution told the jury in opening statements Hutchins, who was a rising star in the industry, was transported via helicopter to a nearby hospital where she died. The aftermath was captured via body cam from a New Mexico sheriff's deputy who responded to the incident and testified in court this week. The footage showed medics' desperate effort to save Hutchins, who was lying on the floor with her arm over her face. In the view of the prosecution, Baldwin was a reckless and arrogant actor who flagrantly and repeatedly mishandled firearms on set. He broke the cardinal rules of firearm safety by leaving his finger on the hammer and trigger, pointing it at people on the set while filming. The defense countered by portraying Baldwin as an actor who was focused on doing his job and arguing that he was failed by crew members who were responsible for overseeing weapons and safety on set. The attorney Alex Spiro emphasized that Baldwin had been told the gun was safe moments before it was handed to him. It all appeared to be setting up days of tense exchanges over whether Baldwin was at fault, with the actor himself expected to possibly take the stand, but ultimately the jury was unable to render a verdict on the question after things swiftly deteriorated on Friday when previously unseen evidence was presented. The court was facing a potentially compelling day, as prosecutors were expected to call Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, the film's armorer, who was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter earlier this year, to the stand. But on Friday morning, the defense alleged that the state withheld evidence and asked the judge to dismiss the case. Shortly after, Schumer dismissed the jury, setting off a day of gripping testimony and astonishing courtroom exchanges. Then things fall apart. Issues first emerged on Thursday when Baldwin's defense said the state had received evidence related to how live rounds of ammunition ended up on the set of Rust. Prosecutors have long said Gutierrez-Reed was the source of the live round, but the new evidence reportedly called that into question. A good Samaritan, Tori Teskey, had come forward to police this year with a box of munitions that he claimed came from the prop supplier, Seth Kenny, and matched the ammunition that killed Hutchins, Spiro told the court. The state did not include the report of an interview with Teskey with the other Rust evidence, nor did they share it with Gutierrez-Reed's lawyer, Spiro said. Morrissey had said that the ammunition brought forward did not match the ones on the Rust set. This has no evidentiary value whatsoever. The judge asked to see the report and the evidence. A box of ammunition. Moments later, Schumer, who was wearing gloves, stepped down from the bench to examine the evidence, directly found that some of the bullets did in fact resemble those from Rust. At one point while questioning witnesses, Morrissey grabbed a bullet, handled it herself without gloves, drawing an objection from the defense. Alexandra Hancock with the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office testified on Friday that she and other officials made the decision to file it separately from the other Rust evidence, an entirely different case filed because they had not established it was connected in the case, she said. Morrissey said several times that Torrey Teskey, the man who came forward with the ammunition, was a friend of Gutierrez Reed's father. She said she had never seen the report until Friday morning, but as the judge questioned Hancock, she said that Morrissey was directly involved in the decision to keep the evidence separate from the Rust case. The audience in the courtroom audibly gasped. And this is not good to do this because the defense is supposed to have all evidence, and this is very shady, in my opinion. And hypothetically, if it wasn't intentional, this is just very unprofessional, just like with the YSL trial. Morrissey appeared determined to defend her name, and by the end of the day, in what looked like a Hail Mary, she called herself to the stand despite the judge telling her that was unnecessary. You don't have to say anything under oath if you don't want to, Sumer said. Morrissey testified that she was not aware that evidence brought forward would not be linked to the Rust case number. She countered Spiro's suggestion that she didn't like Baldwin. I actually really appreciate Mr. Baldwin's movies, she said. I really appreciated the acting he did on Saturday Night Live. Spiro wasn't done. In the final moments, Morrissey was on the stand. He asked if she had ever referred to the actor as an arrogant prick and a bleep sucker in a conversation with a witness, which is very unprofessional, just like YSL. She said she did not recall doing so. She doesn't really say yes or no. She just doesn't recall doing so, which is suspicious, in my opinion. Baldwin, who had appeared tense during the week, looked increasingly heartened as the day went on. When the judge threw out the case, he wept and covered his face. The judge dismissed the case with prejudice, putting sudden end to the involuntary manslaughter case against Baldwin. The decision means that prosecutors cannot bring the same case against him again, and in all likelihood, Baldwin is off the hook for good. The state's conduct amounted to the constitutional violation, Rahmani said. He could call it the cardinal sin for a prosecutor. That's what he called it. The ruling could also have major implications for Gutierrez Reed, film's armorer, who could attempt to undo her conviction based on Friday's decision. Not only is Baldwin a free man, and he can't be retired, but Gutierrez Reed conviction will likely be reversed, Rahmani said. Carl Tobias of the University of Richmond Law School agreed her defense would likely use the same approach as Baldwin's lawyers. Hannah Gutierrez Reed may attempt to make a similar argument to those that Baldwin and his counsel made, and that her conviction should be overturned, or at least conduct a retrial, and that she be released from jail, Tobias said. The attorney for Matthew Hutchins, Halyna's husband, said in a statement that respect of the court's decision. We look forward to presenting all evidence to a jury holding Mr. Baldwin accountable for his actions and the senseless death of Halyna Hutchins. And I was reading something that the husband was going to try to take Alec Baldwin to court himself. So that will be interesting to see if that happens. And this was a really wild thing to witness and see. And comment below what y'all think about this. situation, because there's a lot of back and forth and all kinds of different ways to view this. And thank you all for watching.